Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Very Reasonable Pilots podcast. I'm your host, Charles. Along with me, as always, my co-host, editor, producer, co-pilot, and gunner, Jacob Gloth. How you doing today, Jacob?
I'm okay. What have you got for me today, Charles? Something fun? Exciting?
Yeah, so this TV show, it's not a very developed pilot because I figured we would be talking about Batman the whole time. But it's about a 50s superhero who gets a podcast, right?
Oh,
so
is it Batman?
It's not. It's like, think about like the original Green Lantern or like Wildcat, the Sandman, Dr. Midnight, you know? All the classic superheroes from the 50s that don't really work anymore. Who are like, hero of, you know, the future or whatever, that kind of guy. And this guy, Captain Weird, space hero of tomorrow, is supposed...
That's his name?
Yes, Captain Weird. His name is...
Space Hero of Tomorrow, is that part added or no?
I figure he added Space Hero of Tomorrow on, but also that will be on his license. His name is Henry Weird. Space Hero of Tomorrow.
Okay. I would like that intro every time. You're like, don't forget the Space
Hero of Tomorrow. So he is a 50-something washed-up superhero who, you know, he's helped save the world plenty of times. He's had, you know, villains and sidekicks and stuff like that. And he's retired now. And he's living in LA in this, like, fancy house. I'm thinking of it, it's like he's kind of starting out with BoJack Horseman. Like, he's at a BoJack Horseman level. Where he doesn't have to worry about money, but he's sad, he's a drunk, and he doesn't have any friends. So, he hires this 20-something, Kyle. That's his name. He only gets one name because Captain Weird Henry isn't going to remember another name, so he's like Kyle. He hires Kyle from Craigslist. He's a young intern who is living in a little house that Henry has built in the back of his house, in the back of his like estate.
Okay.
And that little house that Kyle lives in is also the podcast recording studio.
Okay.
So Henry has hired Kyle in order to record, edit, and publish a podcast because Henry is delusional enough to think that that's how he's going to get famous again, is with his podcast, you know?
So am I Kyle and you're Captain Weird?
We can do it that way. And then I was
making fun of you.
And I believed you.
Like he took that so genuinely.
Yeah. And I have hijinks ensue, you know? So hijinks ensue. So I'm thinking...
Hijinks?
Yeah, hijinks. I'm thinking the first episode we can call it Back in Action, you know? And it's... We start in medias res. Captain Weird is, you know, living life. He's doing that thing that guys always do in movies and TV shows to show that they're pathetic. So he's wearing sunglasses and just a bathrobe and underwear, and that's it. You know, he's walking around. He's, you know, sitting, he's drinking at 8 a.m. He's sad. He's, you know, looking at his past accomplishments. You see pictures of, like, things from the past, and, you know, there's me fighting the Cigar-Ath world ender, and there's me teaming up with Mr. Wonderful, the immortal superhero of this time, you know, whatever. And then he decides, he, you know, gets in his car and he drives, and he decides that he has to make a podcast. Like, that's how he's gonna get successful. And maybe we see a billboard of like Marc Maron, WTF, you know, because Marc Maron wasn't famous, and then he was kind of famous, but he wasn't like that successful, and then he did WTF, the podcast. And
well, maybe because we're in a fictional world and we're talking about superheroes, maybe it's another superhero maybe his old villain has a podcast.
That's a good idea. That's a good idea because episode 30 will be him interviewing his old arch nemesis. So that would
be good if his old villain has a way more successful podcast, and maybe your interview. I don't know what you have planned, but the villain sees it as like a kindness to come on his podcast.
Yeah, he's like,
oh, you know, I'll help you get some viewers. I'll hop on your podcast, you know.
And so, Henry Weird.
What's his villain's name?
Dr. Destructinator.
Nice.
because it's the stupid names from the 50s, right?
Yeah, I got you.
So he is a senior member. Henry Weird is a senior member of SPAVI. SPAVI is the Society for the Preservation of American Values and Ideals. It's their version of the Justice League. It's SPAVI. Okay. And so he, has relationships with other superheroes, but he's mostly living as a civilian now, and he will be recognized in the street, but he won't be recognized in like a good way, He'll be like, "Hey, aren't you Captain Weird?" And he'll be like, "Yes, that's me. Didn't you get kicked in the balls really hard by that, 8-winged horse creature that attacked on, the Day of the Dead in 1992?
Yeah.
And he's like,
they only remember the stuff from like the later parts of his career,
yeah,
and not the early parts where he was kicking ass.
Yeah, and he's a gadget guy. That's
Oh, so he doesn't have powers, he just...
Well, I have here he has one poorly defined superpower, like he can see X-rays, It's a superpower that's not very helpful, but it is, there. But he's mostly...
So is he kind of like a Star-Lord type, where he's got, rocket boosters and he's shooting in...
That's what I was thinking, yeah. Like kind of a mixture of Star-Lord and Doctor Strange and Adam Strange. Is that the guy?
It's Doctor Strange. You meant Adam Strange?
Yeah, Adam Strange, the space hero guy. And he's got, maybe we can have a scene where he suits up again in the first episode to like try and get back into his feel better about himself. And he puts on the little costume, and he's got like his guts hanging out, and he's got the little hat on, and it doesn't fit all the way, and his hair's too long, and he's just like, he tries to take off with the jet boots, and they can't lift him anymore because he's too fat.
Oh my god.
And so he goes around, and you just see this guy on the side of the street, Kyle, holding up a sign saying, "We'll podcast for food," or something. "We'll edit podcast for food."
Mm-hmm. And because it's LA.
Yeah,
so
it's LA. And so Captain Weird's just like, "Get in," and Kyle's like, "Uh-huh." And he's,
"Aren't you Captain Weird?"
He's like, you're not taking me back to your house to do weird sex stuff, are you?" It's like, "No, we're doing a what? No, we're doing a podcast." God.
Oh, thank God. The last hero that picked me up, oof. It's like, what? No.
Yeah. Kyle, I don't think we know each other well enough to have these discussions. How old are you? Do you have any brothers or sisters? Let's start there. Move on from there. And so I just have each episode is half of it is Kyle and Captain Weird doing the podcast together, and maybe we can have animated bits of, Captain Weird's adventures that he's describing in the podcast. And then also the other half of the show is just these this odd couple sort of situation where these two domestic partners get into weird situations.
Because he's trying to find things to talk about in his podcast.
Yeah.
Maybe for the first few episodes, the podcast is a biography.
Yeah.
He's talking about things, but they're not getting any viewers.
Yeah.
So they have to find stories.
Yeah, and
or maybe you can't remember shit. I don't know what your plan is.
I'm thinking that I just have a few podcast ideas written down for what each episode could be. So there's episode 1, Back in Action. They have no idea what they're doing. Episode 2, My First Arch. And this is where Captain Weird is going to be describing his first encounter with his arch enemy, Dr. Destructinator, the one who has the super successful podcast. And we're going to see it only from his perspective. So, he's going to be the brave hero who saves everybody and, gets all the chicks and everything.
Yeah.
And, we're just going to we're going to see and hear a little bit of the, adventures that they had, on either side of the law. Then I think we have to get a little bit more meta, right? This podcast, it starts out as this biography of Captain Weird, and it kind of becomes just a deep dive into what it's like to actually be a superhero, right?
Okay.
So
the stresses and the
but also tailoring,
getting going for the silly stuff.
Getting your costume made, how to organize team ups, what to do with like a team that doesn't have a good chemistry. Episode 15, Hero Talk.
I love these. It's hilarious.
Hero Talk, where he gets Mr. Wonderful to come on. And Mr. Wonderful's basically the Superman of this universe, and he's only coming on as a favor, and he's like there for 5 seconds because he's got Superman shit to do. So he like shows up and is like, oh yeah, we're here to record the podcast, we're here with Mr. Wonderful. And Mr. Wonderful's like, hello, oh, I gotta go, see you guys later. Like, that was Mr. Wonderful.
Can I toss in an idea? I like that, but I also want to just toss this in maybe.
Go for it. Too. Toss it.
Because he's Superman, right? And he can. Well, I guess this might work better with the Flash type.
Yeah, we can do a Flash type.
Scratch that. If you have a Flash hero, this would be good. Speedster. Throughout the interview, the Speedster is leaving and coming back to save people.
Yeah, that would be.
But
fun.
He never misses anything because he's
just that good.
He's so fast that he's getting back in time for the next question or whatever.
Yeah.
But he's also, jumping out to save people and running back in.
And then, like, I have episode 20, they're not getting any views, right? So they have to start doing more clickbait stuff. So episode 20 is like top 10 gadgets to use, if you're fighting a supervillain. And it's just...
But he's only got 9.
Yeah. And it's just him ranking his own gadgets. It's not like gadgets that you can go out and get. It's like my own proprietary, space technology that I got. And he's just talking about his gadgets.
Patented, so you can't use it.
Yeah. He ranks like different methods of flying, Because there's so many different ways to fly in superhero universes.
He's like, well, you can do the feet boosters, but that's really hard to hold your balance.
Yeah.
The arm one's easier. But then you can't use your hands.
You got.
What are you gonna do?
Wings, growing wings.
Jetpack's pretty good.
Jetpack's always, is a classic. Grow some wings. You can grow some wings. Only problem with growing the wings is birds will get mad at you. Birds will peck at you if they see you in the sky or on the ground. Also, shit gets caught in between the folds like all the time. It's nasty.
And then maybe what's the Superman's name again?
Mr. Wonderful.
Mr. Wonderful, he shows up for like the last 5 minutes and he's like, well, I mean, just naturally having the ability to fly is probably the best because I just think and I float.
Yeah.
He's like, well,
that
whatever.
would be the bonus one. And we can have like, I think it would be good if we had a remote where they're like, this is a, Captain Weird Space Hero of Tomorrow podcast, because it has to have a silly long name. Captain Weird Space Hero of Tomorrow, the podcast. Exclusive, where they go up to the Spavvy space station and they meet with all the old-timey heroes, and they've all just got horrible racist opinions, or they just say shit that's not okay to say anymore but was cool in 1956, And maybe we can explain that Captain Weird has less, he's from the future, from an alternate dimension, so he has slightly less, he ages slower than everybody else, because I think it would be funny to give this guy a really crazy science fiction backstory, like Mr. Miracle has, where he's
he's from the year 2200.
Yeah.
And he was sent back in time by Evil Ray, and now he
saves people.
Has to fight in this time period.
Yeah.
Because he can't save his own.
Yeah, or something like that.
Something really tragic would be funny, and then he can talk about it every once in a while, and just get really sad and has 1,000 yard stare.
He's got a wife and kids.
He's like, I can never get back to my wife and kids. When Dr. Evil killed them both and made me watch before he sent me back in time, unable to save them. Yeah. Now I wait here,
waiting for him.
For the moment that I can kill him in his youth.
So this is and that's just Kyle talking. So gadget number 5, shrink ray. Let's talk about a shrink ray. And then it's just Captain Weird looking quietly. So it's when you need stuff to be smaller than it is right now, you use a shrink ray. He just mumbles into the microphone and is like, oh.
This is really quiet one.
Brand.
Is he immortal, or is he just aged slower?
I think he ages slower. but he's not immortal. He will die of old age, but you know, maybe we could talk about it like it's some time dilation thing. So
because I was just thinking it would be interesting if he was sent back in from the future.
Yeah.
That his age is stuck at the age he was in the future until he gets to that date.
That's good.
So once he gets to that date, he starts aging normally again. So he's really just kind of waiting to get back to his life there.
Yeah.
But he has to wait like 300 years or something.
Through like all this stuff and like fight all sorts of monsters and stuff and alien overlords, and he's just like tired.
Because it'd be interesting if he did the whole superhero thing, and now he's just tired of it.
Yeah, he did it for like 30 years, and now he's like, I'm done. I'm finished. No more team ups. No more sidekicks. I would like to have an episode where they get Captain Weird gets his first sidekick back, but his sidekick, like it was a little kid when they teamed up in like the 50s, and now is older than he is physically.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
And like Captain Weird's like, come on, I got it out of storage for you, and you know,
it's like this tight spandex suit.
Yeah, and he's like, Henry, please don't make me. Come on.
Is his sidekick now like a better superhero, or is his sidekick just like a normal guy?
I would think he's like an accountant, you know, because he doesn't have any...
That would be funny. He just like, you know, got into his normal life. He's like, yeah, I did the whole, you know, sidekick thing when I was a kid. It's like when you joined the Boy Scouts, you know?
Yeah.
Just something you do for a while.
And then, you know, either you...
I could have went on to the Superhero Academy,
but
I just...
I couldn't, and he throws up the fact that he's missing one of his legs. He's like, yep, and then Henry Weird's...
Cut off my blood circulation in that suit.
Captain Weird's like, yeah, well,
the leg.
That's what you get for messing with an experimental phase discopulator. When I'm
you
not
left
around.
me in that room alone with one of the most evil supervillains.
Listen, he was tied up, all right? See, this is why you got fired. This is why you got fired. And then they just...
I quit.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean...
You were gonna be fired, so...
Hey, at least you're not like the other guy. He just died. You mean Ted? Yeah, Ted. He came back. I know, but he died for like...
To die.
He died for a while, and he came back.
Dead for like 10 years.
Something. Yeah. He really didn't like when he found out that the Dr. Destructinator, the person who killed him, was my best man. Because I think it would be funny if Captain Weird has this sort of like friendly relationship with his supervillain, but everyone else within his orbit is like, that guy is a monster who has killed hundreds of children, you know? And
But he's like, you know, but he really stuck with me in my last breakup.
Yeah, he was like...
That'd be funny. Flashback to, they're asking, like, why are you such good friends with him? And you can see them in, like, an epic battle Dr. Destructinator and Captain Weird. And Captain Weird, he's, like, just not really...
He gets a phone call
into it.
in the middle.
He's not really into it.
Yeah.
Or maybe he gets a phone call. And Dr. Destructinator stops fighting. And... you know, the sound disappears and we just hear sad music, and then he like starts comforting him, and they like go out for pizza or something, and they go to a bar, and he's like trying to cheer him up. They play like arcade games, like a...
We get him out of like a Ferris wheel. They're at a, you know, carnival.
And then it ends with Dr. Destructinator tucking him in at night.
Yeah, and then like blowing up a hospital.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that the first season has to end with Dr. Destructinator coming on to the podcast, you know?
Yeah.
And that's the episode that sends their podcast into the stratosphere, you know? The end of the first season, it's like, oh my god, we've got hundreds of thousands of downloads in the first few hours alone. And then second season comes back and it was like, oh no, that was a glitch. Sorry. We got 7 downloads in the first 10 days of the podcast being up. Yeah, I'm thinking that we gotta look for another source of income for you, buddy. And then Captain Weird just reveals that he's got like an entire mound of gold, or he's got some machine from the future that can, you know, make gold or money or whatever.
Or something.
And he's like, it's not about the money, it's about the fame. It's about the power, the pride. The pride cometh before the fall.
The legacy.
The legacy. And yeah, that's really my show. I don't have a ton of. It was a little bit less of a fully fleshed out idea.
I mean, I thought it was pretty good.
Yeah.
I liked it a lot. I like that show. Would you have a name for the show?
I do not. I don't have a name for it. I was thinking maybe we could just call it Captain Weird Space Hero of Tomorrow, the podcast. But we could call it something else if, you have a better idea. The idea was to get a superhero actor to start a podcast.
Oh, I see.
And I was gonna.
And then you switch to an actual superhero.
Yeah, and I was gonna cast Robert Downey Jr. as the superhero actor, like washed up superhero actor who starts a podcast. But I think we could cast Robert Downey Jr. as Captain Weird, and that would be.
Oh.
I think he would do it.
I like that.
Because it wouldn't require that much. He'd just have to he'd spend 15 minutes in the makeup chair, and then he's got to sit in a chair and talk, read some lines. I think he'd like it. Who would you get to play Kyle, the young, plucky intern?
Tom Holland.
That's who I was going to say, and I'm like, no, I can't. Maybe.
I think it's funny. No. He's in everything.
Yeah.
Kyle, the plucky intern. I imagine Kyle is kind of like a tall, lanky kid.
Yeah, me too. Ezra Miller.
To be honest, I imagine Kyle as the Kyle we went to high school with.
Yeah.
But he's not tall. But
no,
you get that's kind of what I was just thinking.
I agree.
For the listeners, I'm looking for someone with brown hair. I think he has brown eyes. I don't remember.
Yeah. White skin.
Long hair. Kind of.
He had a face. If I remember.
Face, yeah. That's about it, really.
Legs, arms, all 10 fingers.
How do you describe people? I don't
know. That is a good question. How do you describe people?
Kind of a doughy face, but I remember him from I'm thinking of the way he looked in 6th grade.
Yeah.
So that kind of doesn't really mean much.
It's not a very good measure.
You know what? You know who we should be? We should find the guy. You know the guy that holds up the sign?
Yes. Get that
the mean guy. That guy is Kyle.
That guy. That works. Yeah. And
There's a meme with a dude that holds up a sign. He's the sign guy. I don't know. I think that's actually what his name is.
Let's find out
not his real name, obviously.
What song? Are there any superhero songs?
Superhero songs?
Yeah.
Several?
I mean, like, good ones.
Oh, I know what we should do. Okay, for the song, for the intro music to the podcast, it should be his theme.
Yes, that's awesome. That's great.
It should be his theme.
And it could be like a theme that he got written by like a band in the 50s, So it's like an old-timey classic like jazz, like early rock and roll theme. And everyone who like was involved with the writing and production of that song is now dead.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like,
and even better, he doesn't have the rights to it.
Yeah.
So he gets sued like halfway through the season because he can't use that song.
Yeah, the families of all the people. Because it turns out actually he accidentally killed everyone who was involved with the writing of that song. He was getting... They all
were all
in
died in some big battle.
Yeah, they were in a building.
And, at the funeral, he made like some throwaway comment about how they could keep the revenue from the theme.
Oh yeah.
And they all got upset with him because they're like, "There's no revenue from that." And now it finally is coming back.
Yeah, that would be fun.
He gets sued for copyright infringement.
And he's like, "How much do I have to pay you?" And they're like, "You have to pay us the exact amount of money that you've made from the podcast." He hands them $5. A $5 bill.
Yeah, he hands them a bill.
Yeah.
He's like, yeah. I need about $5,000 from you then.
That microphone shit is expensive.
Yeah.
Plus, I had to get this guy. He points to Kyle. Kyle's just like, hey. He's not cheap.
He's like, they're like, you haven't made any money? And he's like, well, yeah, you need 1,000 views an episode to start monetizing.
Yeah, so
and
we're about 900 off from that, so it's gonna be a while.
989. 82. Yeah. And the other ones are just my mom. Listen a lot.
If I'm being 100% honest, I just go to this podcasting app, I hit play, and I just turn it off.
My mom's in the future. She hasn't been born yet.
Yeah. Yeah, that would be fun. Maybe we can have an episode where he falls in love with, like, someone and then, you know, goes back and checks his history books for the future and turns out that person is, like, one of the world's greatest, like, serial killers or something.
No, so he breaks up.
Yeah.
And that causes the person to
become a serial killer. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I think we could play with if he's from the future, we can play with that a lot, you know? Mm-hmm. And he can just, like, make sly references to, like, yeah, like, ooh, you know? Good for him. And he could be, like, you know, he could be talking about a superhero and be like, oh, yeah, he really needs to cut out on the cholesterol. Like, why? He's, you know, he's got a super metabolism because he runs so fast, so it doesn't matter what he eats. And then Henry's like, yeah, sure, definitely. Won't give him heart disease later in life.
Yep, don't want to clog up those arteries.
Mm-hmm. Great. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I do like the Society for the Preservation of American Values and Ideals. I think that's That's
a ridiculous name.
I know, I think it's funny. Spavvy.
It's clearly something that was made in, like, the 50s. Mm-hmm. And doesn't totally fit with today's, you know, superhero league.
Yeah. Yeah. You know it. They have one...
They're not even all American anymore.
There's one woman. In the original team, there was one woman, and she was the secretary. And they're like, ugh.
Yeah.
And now everybody's like, ugh. They're kind of like problematic.
They kind of want to change the name, but the older folks, they get vote.
Yeah.
All the senior members, they still get a vote, and they won't let them change the name.
Maybe one of the senior members, like, evolved past his physical form, and he, like, moved into the sun or something, like Superman does sometimes. And so just, like, every couple of years, they have to send, like, an astronaut to the sun with, like, a clipboard, and, like, just, you need to sign here.
Gotta vote, yeah.
And you just see one, like, skeletal hand reach out of the sun, sign, and then, you know, throw the pen through the guy's space helmet, and he dies.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's my show. That's my show idea. That's the show idea I had.
Is that your show idea?
That's my show idea. Thank you all for listening to the Very Reasonable Pilot podcast. I've been your host, Charles Long. With me, as always, my co-host, editor, producer, co-pilot, and gunner, Jacob Cloth. If you like what you heard here and you want to hear more, you can follow, like, subscribe. You can find us on all sorts of different things, different places for all sorts of audio recording mediums. And if you want to learn some more things, you can watch The Batman with Robert Pattinson. All right, goodbye.
Bye.